Okay, welcome to Bitrix Live. I'm Damien Edwards, Commercial Manager of Bitrix24 Partners Interface. With me I've got our Support Manager, Andy Naylor.
Hi guys, so we're here for the next hour and we're here to answer any questions that you may have on Bitrix. So whether you use the cloud version of Bitrix or the on-premise version, we have both systems open, ready to answer the questions on either of those. So we're here every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern for 1 hour, and if you do have any questions throughout the week that you want answering at the start of the next session, then just drop us an email to live@intraface.com and we can pick them up and answer them to start off with. But do ask us live as well. There's a box here next to us on YouTube, so just ask the questions in there and we can show you.
Yeah, so I think we had some questions in by email. Let's have a quick look. So we did have a question about eStore. So the question was generally about how coupons, product bundles and warehousing works. So I think we can look at coupons, can't we? I think warehousing might be a feature that's going to be ready when it's out of eStore. There is a warehousing tab, I think, but I don't think, although I think you can create your warehouses, you can't allocate product to it. So eStore is in, or online stores is in beta. So those there will be additional fixes and updates coming, but it is possible to create coupons, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So if you just go to your online store, click into product marketing, and you can see here we have coupons. So click into the coupons section, click into add, and then you can specify the criteria for this particular coupon code. So you can even click on generate, and it will generate your own unique coupon code.
Okay, and we can assign the coupon to a user. Oh, maybe we can assign. Oh, we assign it to a user, which is a customer, of course, not an internal user. Absolutely. So you can assign it to a particular person, which is important, isn't it? They can't share it with that user. It can be single order or multi-use. You can have a time limit on that so that it expires. All the standard sort of features you'd expect when you want to be able to create a coupon for a user. So yeah, it looks to be there.
Yeah, I think you'd have to specify, you'd have to create the rule, so that's where the discount comes in, okay, and the amount that you would get off using this coupon. So you'd have to specify the rule there and assign it to this coupon.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of warehousing, there is an option to create warehouses, but I don't think, like we said, I don't think it's the feature to add product to that and sort of manage inventory by warehouse is fully available. Although that said, we are this is a very new, so still in beta. We are going to add eStore to our Sell More with Sites webinar. So I think probably next time round, which is probably in about 2 or 3 weeks, we'll be talking about eStore in detail. So hopefully we'll be able to cover those off in detail then as well. Okay.
Yeah, so I had just a couple of questions really, just about setting up the CRM. And we're going to take a look, just a brief look at how we can import into Bitrix. So we can import into companies and then into contacts. So the first thing that you need to do, first of all, is make sure that your fields exist in your companies and contacts that you're importing into. So you would need to go to the CRM, into settings. We'll open this up in another tab, and click into form and report settings, click on custom fields, and then you can create the fields that you need for your companies and contacts in this section. It's quite straightforward. Just click on add field, select the type, give it a name, and then it will reside in that particular element that you've created it in. So that's the first thing that you need to do. Make sure your fields exist. The second thing that we would usually recommend to do then is to actually export out of Bitrix to create your import template. Now what we would usually recommend to do that is, first of all, click on the little gear icon here, and every column header that's showing is highlighted in blue. So we've got company name, we've got that twice actually, email, responsible, but you may want to include address, street, region, zip. And then so select all the fields that you want to be able to import into Bitrix, and they will show here. And then we would recommend adding a company, so you've got an example company. And then finally, click on Export to Companies to CSV. And don't select either of these checkboxes. What that will do is it will only export the column headers that you've got in your page here. So if you don't select these two and click on Run, we will just export the column headers that you've got that you selected a moment ago. So that's your template essentially. Then fill in the spreadsheet with all the companies that you want to import, and go into import here, import companies. Select the file that you want to import, so we'll just download a sample here to show you what it will do. So if we go into downloads, company, so select the file. You can specify who the default responsible person is if you want. If you've got a column in your spreadsheet for responsible person, you can put the person's name in that. Then click on next. And what it will do here, it will basically give you the column headers that are in your spreadsheet on the left hand side. So all these field headers in bold. And then on the right hand side are the fields in Bitrix. So if they are called something different, it will look like this. It will be blank. And all you will need to do is choose the field that you want to map to in Bitrix. So it's quite straightforward. And once you've mapped your column headers in your CSV to the fields in Bitrix, scroll down to the bottom, click on Next, and then it's up to you if you want to use the duplication control. You can ignore all duplicates and just import all. But if you are updating, if you want to update a whole range of fields, which is really useful, then click on Merge, and it will be based on the company name, the company phone number, and the email. If those match, it will update that particular company element in there. So that's how simple it is. So you've got your template, import it in, and one of the questions was, how can I map my contacts to my companies? So the first thing you need to do is just follow those steps that I've covered there. Import your companies, and then second, go to your contacts, do exactly the same thing, but just make sure in your contact import you've got a column called company, and then the company, you would put the company name in, and it would map that contact to that company. So if you click in Al's Toy Barn here, you'll be able to see that it has one contact associated to it. So it's mapped it across based on the company name. And that's it really. That's how you would get your template, do your import in company, do your import in contacts.
Okay. In each project or workgroup drive business process, can I set my newly created business process as a template? So we go into a workgroup. Let's go into one I know. Let's go into this one. See if there's any documents in this one. Okay. So you can enable business processes in a drive.
I don't think it means business processes in documents. I could do.
Yeah. So what you've got is some standard business processes, which are. Click on here. We'll open them up. So you've got these standard business processes. You can create your own processes or edit these ones. I think probably what you want to do is when you create a new work group or project is to be able to enable that business process that you've created. Hope I'm right in that. So there are two ways of doing it. You can let's go into the business process. You can export the business process. Click into it and we can export this. And then you can re-upload that, re-import that using the import button here into your new work group. So that would be really the only way to do it on the cloud, a cloud account. If you have a self-hosted account, and you could create a process whereby we show a process in here quite a bit. So if we go into a company and we go into one of our, let's go into this different account, let's go into this self-hosted account. So on a self-hosted system, if we go into a company, here we have a business process which runs on a company which creates a project. So this is a form which we can complete, which triggers a process, which creates a work group and adds a series of tasks and documents and things to that work group. Now, if necessary, if you wanted to, you could automatically install a custom business process on the drive using a business process. But you would need a self-hosted, and it's not a standard feature, so it requires. We've done it before a few times, so if you got in touch with us, we could set it up for you. It does require a bit of code, I think, to do it. So import it if you're on the cloud, if you're on business on the self-hosted, then get in touch with us, and we'll be able to set it up for you to do that. But it's not really a standard feature.
Yeah, I mean, if you are referring to the other way, which I know you mentioned Drive, so I think that's right with the documents. But if you are referring to the actual Kanban automation rules here, so you can see at the moment we're in Planner at the moment, but if we were in Kanban, each project has their own stages here. There's actually no way at the moment, well, I mean, there probably will be in the self-hosted, but there's no way on the cloud at the moment you could set this up as a template for each one as you go in. So these are on a work group by work group basis, these automation rules that you can see here.
Okay, I had a question about free PBX, asking if we can show how that works with Bitrix and whether it works with a new sales intelligence. So it is possible to track calls in sales intelligence. I don't know whether that at this stage, I don't know whether that would work if you're integrated with free PBX, to be honest, but we do have integration built for free PBX. We don't really have anything on the front end that I can show you. We have developed the integration which allows you to make and receive calls through your free PBX phone system. Those calls, your billing will be through your normal provider, but it will record the calls into Bitrix Contact. It also allows you to click into a telephone number on a contact and ring that contact using your free PBX system. So that's one of the integrations that we have already available, free PBX and 3CX. There is still a bit of time involved in enabling it or implementing it. So there is a little bit of a cost, but it's available for you. But yeah, I don't know if it works for sales intelligence. I say when we probably look at sales intelligence on a later webinar, then we will probably try and cover that off.
Okay, yeah, I had a question come through about how to restrict staff viewing companies and contacts in the CRM. So Bitrix does have a powerful tool to be able to do this. And how it really works is, let's just jump into the companies for an example. And what we'll see here is that each company has a responsible person. And that's the same as contacts, deals and leads. So it works on the same methodology. So you've got John Smith is responsible for Techco. John White is responsible for Sheds. So we're currently logged in as John Smith. You can set it so you can only see your own companies. So in that case, I wouldn't be able to see Sheds or Us because it's responsible by John White. Or you can also set it so you can see your own and your departments. So that would be based on the company structure here. So I would be able to see, if I was in the US sales, I would be able to see all the companies responsible by Mark Hope and also Jim White. So you can set it like that, or you can set it completely across the board. And how you do that is if you go into settings again and go to the permissions and click on access permissions, then what we'll do is we need to add a new role. So let's click on add. And let's just call this live role for Bitrix Live. Okay, and then you can see down the left hand side are each of the modules in the CRM: contacts, companies, through to deals, leads, quotes. So these are all the different entities in the CRM. Across the top, the ability to view, ability to add new contacts in this case, ability to edit, ability to delete, export and import, and modify the automation. So as I mentioned, if you want to deny this particular role, you can just leave it as it is. But if you want to set so they can only view their own, they can only add their own contacts, they can only edit their own contacts, only delete. I would always recommend leaving export to denied. So that's how you would set it. If you wanted to let the person see their own and anybody in their department's companies, then again you would set it to personal and department, and you would set it across the board. One of the other good features in here is personal department and sub-departments. So if somebody's sat up in the company structure at the top of the tree, and it's, for example, a manager, then you can set it so you can see sub-departments that sit under that department as well. So the permissions expand as we go down. And then finally we have all open and all. So if, for example, in deals, if a deal is closed and won, and we set it to all open, then you wouldn't be able to see the closed deals. So those are the different options. Once you've created it and tailored it to all your needs in here, just click on save. And then what you can do is just assign that role to either everybody. So you could set it to all employees if you wanted to. So in user groups, you could set it to all employees. You could set it to a user by user basis. So if I wanted only Mark Hope to be assigned to this live role, I would select that user, Mark Hope, and then select live role from the role here.
I think what you should do is try not to have too many roles like we've got on this demo site here, because you'll get users on in more than one role, and then they'll receive the highest level that they're allocated through any of those. It gets a bit confusing.
Yeah, I think there's one quite important thing, isn't it, to note that if Mark Hope is also in the user group administrators, he will always take the higher role of whatever has been set.
Yeah, and just inside here, it's worth looking at things like these stages. So I think we do on deals and leads. So let's have a look at. Looking at leads. So maybe when the lead is won or lost or something, it might be actually just at those stages that you want to change the permission, so you can potentially lock it down when it becomes won and converted, so that it can't then be changed. Also quite good on deals as well. So let's say that we win a deal, then we might want to then restrict access at this stage, so that the content of that deal, the value and the products and things associated with it can't be changed at that stage. So everyone gets access until then. Of course, you can do these by different deal pipelines, so different permissions by different pipelines.
Yeah, I think it's fairly common, isn't it, with regards to leads and deals, especially when it comes to the sales agents working on these, that a lot of our clients have, for example, all leads set to be only set to personal, so they can only see their own leads that have been assigned to them, which is good for them because they can clearly see what they need to concentrate on, and they can't see any other sales reps leads and deals in the system.
Yeah. Okay. In self-hosted version, is it possible to allow activity stream to be viewed before login? Well, under the terms of the license, certain areas of Bitrix are not allowed to be made public at all, and one of those will be activity page. So you can't show that on a public page It has to be. It's restricted to those users that you've bought a license for, and so no, would not be possible. Just put our contact details up. So if you've got questions during the week, send them to sales here or to sales@interface, or live at interface.com would be better. But if you want to get in touch with us about any support for your existing system, or if you want to talk to us about a demo so you can understand more about whether Bitrix is going to be the right tool for you, then we can do that. Got a question here. Will my system run faster if I use my own server? So I guess, if you buy Bitrix on Bitrix24.com, you sign up there, then you pay monthly. I mean, you can sign up for the free account, or you sign up for the commercial accounts. Then Bitrix host it for you. It's hosted on their AWS environment, which is in multiple different regions. So depending on where you are in the world, it will be hosted on the local regional server. In the UK, where we are, there's one in the UK. In the US, there's several. There's one or two in mainland Europe and around the world. So that's what happens if you host it on your own server. So on-premise, you would need to buy an on-premise license. So they're separate. You can migrate the data from your cloud instance over to your on-premise instance. Bitrix will back it up for you and will help you restore that to your new on-premise. The options you have for on-premise would be to buy a server and hold that physically in your office and install it on that. Make that server available over the internet so that people can access it from anywhere. And you can also do the same as Bitrix, rent some space off someone like AWS or another web server provider, or we can provide web space for you. We can provide an instance with a certain amount of allocated space. It's fully optimized for how Bitrix works. And if it will run faster, I wouldn't have thought it would run faster than the cloud. I mean, if you're hosting it yourself, then you've got the option to allocate as much resources to that server as you want to. So I guess if you feel it's not running fast enough, then just put more resources on it. You should certainly choose the self-hosted version, put more resources on it, and then it will run as fast as you want it to, really, depending on how much you want to spend on the resources. But I don't know if you're having problems with the speed. That probably is to do with more internet connection than. We don't get people complaining about the speed as such. But if you run it locally, I suppose, and you're accessing it locally, not accessing it over the internet at all, then it's going to run fast because you're not relying on the internet connection. But we don't have any problems with speed. If you got in touch with us, we could have a look at it for you and tell you whether all the server is set up and has the right level of resources on. But it shouldn't run slow, and it can be fixed if not. So these are the prices for self-hosted. You pay, incidentally, this is the most popular one really, 50 users. That's the price you pay for the license, which is essentially a lifetime license. You get updates included, maintenance included for the first 12 months. And then to receive maintenance after that, you pay 25% per annum for that. Of that price, so on that about $750 per annum get maintenance. So it's quite low cost, but you've got to look at the cost of the hosting, and also really should be having some partner support if you're using self-hosted, because it's more advanced product.
Okay, so I had another question that came through just about, do I have to set up email accounts for each of my users? So basically Bitrix has, let me just click into the mail, and it's a really good feature. Bitrix now has Mailbox integration, and the question was just with regards to setting it up for each user. So each user does have their own integration options. So it's very easy to set one up. I can just quickly set one up here. So please put in the details and the credentials that are outlook.com. Then what we can do, decide how many emails we want to bring in. If I just select all the time, so that's every single email that's ever been received to this. There's not very many because it's our demonstration site. And then we can decide whether we want to integrate it with the CRM. So any messages that we've received from a contact in the CRM or a company will sync up. Any emails that we send to a company or a contact that exists in the CRM, again, will sync up back to the CRM. So we've covered this element quite a few times in these live sessions. So these are all the different options you can choose. Then once you click on connect, it's pretty much as simple as that, really. That will then start syncing up. Depending on how many emails that you've got in your inbox, it can take a long time if you've got thousands of emails. This shouldn't take too long. I think we've only got 2. So you can see how it looks. It's quite nice. It's quite easy to see. We can see in here, click on the email, and we can see the email really nicely. We can reply in here if we wanted to. Now you don't have to use this as an email tool to send and receive your emails from. If you're wanting to get those emails into the CRM, you can continue using Gmail or Outlook or whichever external application you use. But it does have some good features. So you can see here, if I was to click next to Bitrix24 Live email, I can create this, use this email in a task. So if I click on Create Task, it takes a copy of that email and puts it in the task here, which is really clever. And then we can just assign the task to somebody, and we can say, I don't know, whatever you would do into a task, and assign that. John Quinn would then get a notification to say that a new task has been assigned to him, and he'll be able to see the content of that particular email. And there are other things. You can manually create leads from them. So if you get an email and you want to generate a lead, you can click on Save to CRM. And then we're going to have some others coming soon, so you can discuss in Activity Stream, discuss in the chat inside Bitrix with other colleagues, and it can also create calendar events. So those will be coming shortly. But it is a really good tool, like I say, to be able to not only perform those tasks and things, but sync it to your CRM as well.
Yeah. We have a set number of tasks to do each month. Is there a way I can quickly create these? So we've asked this sort of thing a bit. So you can do that using a task template. Click into your task page and go to templates. And you can add, so these are our templates we've got here. You can add a template. And populate whichever fields you need to for your template, and then once you've created a template, you can then quickly create one of those by going into let's go back into task by going into the link that says using template. So, but if you've got a very large number of tasks to create, then you're going to have to do each one of these manually. The way to do it would be to run a business process. It might be that you can run that if you're using the CRM, run it on a company. Let's just have a look at, so if I go to the company, then the business process would exist up here. So it would be called sort of like tasks, templates, or new project or something like that. Existing here, you'll be able to trigger it from there, but I'll show you how it will be created, how easy it is to set up, change it. So let's add a template in that we're going to run off a company. Let's just call it tasks. Now we're not going to auto run it when a company's added or changed at all. We just want to run it manually as and when required. Might be that you use some parameter fields so that you can input some data that's specific to that project. But if all the tasks are exactly the same every single time, then you don't need to do that. Just need to bring in your tasks, just like this. So we can bring in. Might be that you make this a little bit more complex by having conditions that look at certain fields within the company record, and so if it's this type of company, we're going to these type of tasks. But in its basic form, you'll just create a series of tasks like this and populate each one, give it a name. assign it to a responsible person, give it some description and deadlines, and etc. etc. Even any custom fields that you have inside a task, these are not standard fields, you can pre-populate those in this business process. So once you've got your tasks, that's it. You run the process and it will automatically create the tasks. One thing you have to remember to do in here is select your social network. So if you leave it as personal task, it'll create a task that's not inside a work group. But if you select your work group you want it to go in, then let's say this is your client mega project, then your task will sit inside that work group. You can create a work group as well. Create new work group. You could create the group, and then you could add the task to the group. You need to do something, don't you, to get the ID of the group to populate the task. But right, yes.
So on additional results, you can click on group ID, click on insert, and then you'd have to fill out all the other details.
Yeah. So yeah, it might be that actually. It might be you populating them in an existing group, or you can create a new group like that. You might want to then just notify somebody at the end, send a notification in here to say that this has been done. That sort of thing.
So just kind of question, would it be best to set up projects under each individual company if we are doing a number of tasks for a company, for instance, management accounts every month, quarterly VAT return and monthly payroll? Or do you think the best way to record such work? So I would go down the lines of what Damien's just explained here, and I would create, it all depends, I suppose, who's working on these kinds of tasks. But let's just say that we have a work group, a private work group, and let's just do it quickly. Private work here called payroll. And in payroll, you would have all the employees that worked on payroll tasks. So it's simple as that. And then I would create that group called payroll. And then what we would do is pretty much similar to what Damien's just explained, is that I would have a company and then I would run a manual process to create those payroll tasks and assign it to that payroll group. That's probably the best way to do it, wouldn't it? Because then you can create multiple workflows for all your different kinds of jobs.
And you can assign a task to a company in the CRM,
exactly.
can't you? So you can see who it's for. So yeah, you can do it.
So if we call this,
really.
We'll just do it very quickly because all it will take is one task. But if we called this payroll, and then we just take off when added here, and click on save, and then what we can do, like pretty much like Damien's just done there, is click on here and just say payroll, and maybe we want to put the company name in. Maybe we want to put the company name in here, so click on these three dots, and then we can assign whoever is responsible for this particular task. So we'll say Mark Hope, and we'll put ourselves John Smith. We can put all the task details. So if you want to take information from the company, just click on here. You can say just put some info, and then because the task group is already created, you can see payroll. We can assign it to payroll here. We can track time. You mentioned about tracking time. You can do so in the task. And then you can see here, bind to current CRM entity. Make sure that that's ticked as yes, and that's it. I mean, this is a very basic way of doing it, but you can start to build a picture. So if we went to companies now, and went to TechCo, then we can run that process we've just created. So if I click on this little workflow tool, click on payroll, you should be able to see that a new task has been created in the workgroup. So if I go to workgroup and then payroll and click into tasks, you can now see TechCo payroll. And if I wanted to bring in a column header for, I think there's one for CRM, yeah. you can see here it's assigned to the company TechCo. So that's quite quick and easy way, and a pre-filtered, pre-organized way. And like you were mentioning here, can I track time on it? Yeah, you certainly can. So you can track time by clicking the time tracker. One's already running at the moment, but I can pause that one and start the time tracking on this. So that's one way of tracking time. Click on pause, just come out of here, refresh, click back into the company here, and you'll be able to see under time elapsed that the time has been logged. So it may be that we have it set on. You can put a little comment about what we've done in that. And then the other way of doing it is to add manual time. So we can say, yes, today we added 1 hour, and click. So there's different ways of logging time, but it's quite a structured way of performing these tasks.
Yeah, so can we create it on repeat? I wonder if we can create a repeat task on using the business process. There will be a way of doing it, won't there? I don't know whether it's standard.
Yeah, I think you would have to just loop it. So you would probably have to do it based on a company custom field. So if we went back into here, and let's just go back into settings. So if we went to automation, business processes, back into the one we've just created, payroll. What we could do is use I think it's under constructions, we could use a while loop, and we would check a field that exists in the company. So let's just say payroll equals true if we had an element field called payroll in the company. And that would then loop, so you could say currency equals, let's just say pound. So that would loop, as long as it's pound, it would then loop and perform the task. And then you would wait, so let's put it on here, and you would say days, you would say every 30 days.
It would probably be, it'd probably be every calendar month, wouldn't it? It doesn't have a month period in there, unfortunately, does it? But
if you put, no, yeah, you couldn't do it. So you'd have to wait 30 days, click on save, and then that's essentially it. So once you've run it once, it will, you probably want it to do it the other way, create the task, then wait 30 days, and then in 30 days time, because it would check the field that exists in the company, payroll equals true, and if it's still true, then it will loop back round, create the task, and do it again, and then loop. And then if they stopped that service with you, you would change that field from true to false in the company, and then next time it would just drop out and it wouldn't do it.
yeah.
So
It's showing you can't do it on a calendar month, but I think if you had a self-hosted version, then we could put a bit of code in there that does it on a calendar month for you rather than every 30 days. It's not going to work too well.
Yeah, probably get sooner and sooner, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's not,
so yeah, I think we may have done it before, where you find the last day of the month.
Yeah.
But yeah, you probably could do it like that.
Mm-hmm. So we created a work group there for payroll. You could do it. And we attached a task, associated a task with the customer. You could have a work group for the customer, and then create the task and drop it into the customer's work group, whichever way you wanted to do it. If you had it depends how you want to view them really. If you had a work group for each customer, you'd see all the different types of tasks for that customer, obviously inside that work group.
And you just mentioned, would it appear in the calendar automatically? So it would appear in the work group calendar for payroll automatically. The task would appear. I think you'll probably have to put a start date and end date on there, or a deadline date at least. But you could just add that in here. And because we've assigned it to that particular work group, we can add it in. If it didn't, for any reason in this process, we could always add a calendar event, and we could just call this payroll with the company name in a description. Mm-hmm. So you could do it either way. But I think with the tasks, you can decide whether you want to show or hide.
There is another way of doing it. Of course, we could use assignments, maybe approval, or you could, instead of a task, you can use an approval. That generates an assignment in your can't see it in here. Workflows. Just open that up and see if we've got any in there. Probably, I mean, this is this would just then generate something like this. It would say payroll required for this particular client, and you can then start that and then confirm when it's been, have a button that says complete. So you could have assignments instead of tasks.
I think the only problem with that though is that I don't know. I think it goes the tools in here to manage your tasks are quite good, aren't they? Because if you would have a payroll, and then you'd be able to see when it's all due, who's doing it. So
you want to track time spent on it. So
yeah.
You need to use tasks for time spent. Okay. Okay, there's our contact details again. Post your questions in the chat window. We had a question: can I remove Bitrix branding and white label it for myself? So you are on this. So the branding appears on the login page, and within the site there's really very little branding, really virtually none. So you can add your logo up the top right hand corner or add your name in there. There's no branding there. There's a little bit of branding down here, reference to copyrights down there, but that's it. So you can't remove these links here, copyright information. There is really no branding apart from the login page. So when you log into the cloud, you log in through the network. So it's a generic page that everyone accesses to log in. So you can't change that one. If you're on the self-hosted, then you can actually remove the login page and add your own design to that. So on self-hosted, you can actually, as we've got here, host on any domain. We're on demo.interface.com. So you can choose your domain and choose your login page. So you can't.
Yeah, I think with the professional, you can put it on your own domain, can't you?
Yeah, you can, but you can't change the branding.
Page, yeah.
So you can't. I mean, the question is about white labeling it. You can't actually white label Bitrix and sell it as your own product. That's against the terms of the license. You can remove the login page design on the self-hosted and add your own. So it's essentially your own branded product, just with that little Bitrix copyright on the bottom of each page. But we do that a lot for people, particularly if you want to invite in. And for this questioner here, they've got clients they're doing payroll for. If you wanted to invite them in for to access any information that you want to share with them inside, then having your own domain and branded login page would be, I guess, quite a good thing.
We've got a question here. In self-hosted version, can you connect the personal mobile phone to Bitrix? So Bitrix does have an iOS mobile app and an Android app as well. So you can access Bitrix via that. So if you're on the self-hosted, which I know you are, it's a little bit different. You just have to click on the link at the bottom that says provide on-premise details. And that's essentially all you need to do. You would need to put your URL in and your username and password that you would usually log into Bitrix on. So that's how you log in on the mobile app on the on-premise version. If you're on the cloud, you just enter in your username and password, don't you? You don't need the URL.
Yeah. If you're on, and you just need to make sure you've got an SSL certificate on your URL if you're on the self-hosted, because it won't work without that. Or large sections won't work without an SSL. If you host with us, we provide a free SSL. In fact, if you buy a license from us and we install it on your server, we'll provide a free SSL for you as well. Manage all that for you, installation and applying the SSL.
How can I get access? How can I set who users can access the sites tool? So I'm not sure about that. Let's have a look on the sites. I'm not sure how you. Is it only an administrator that can access?
Don't know. We could try and have a look, couldn't we? If we just switch users on one of these. So let's just close some of these down. Too sure, but it makes sense that you wouldn't want everybody necessarily to have access to sites. It's an administrator. administrator tool. Let's just go into these users. So on a self-hosted, we can access the user list quite easily, and we can go into a separate user. Let's just check. This user's not an admin.
So it's not a user.
Oh.
Just put them in a user. Let's see.
Okay, so let's just authorize as that user and go into the site. So when we log in as a non-admin, then this looks different straight away. They see a different background, but you'll probably see some different menus down here, and they can't see. By the looks of it, they can't see sites.
No.
So by default. So that's on the self-hosted. Just make sure they're not an administrator in the administrator group. On the cloud, I would have thought, if the same settings, don't you? You can make someone an admin within the settings page. So it's exactly the same if they're not an admin.
Yeah, so I've jumped back onto cloud here, and if you do want to make somebody an administrator, then you would just go to their profile here, click on edit, and then you can say user has administration access to the portal. So those that, if they're not checked there, they're not an admin, so they won't be able to see the sites tool. If they are checked there, then, and you don't want them to, just deselect them. Come in here and deselect them.
Okay, let's have some more questions if you've got any more questions. Put our contact details up. So we have a live session for about an hour at the same time every week. It's EST time, New York time at 10 a.m. on Thursday, and we also have webinars on Monday at 11 a.m. So they're on specific subjects. So go to our website intraface.com/webinars to register for there, and subscribe to us on YouTube. So subscribe to Bitrix24, but search for Intraface and subscribe, and then you'll receive notifications about live sessions.
In a project drive business process workflow, how can a task be created based on whatever project the workflow is being triggered? You would just need the business process active on every project that you've got, and then no matter where somebody's uploading a document to in all your different project drives, it would trigger that process within that drive. You can't have one business process across all different project drives. I think Damien showed you earlier how to create one process, click on the export button, so you've downloaded the business process, then you'd have to go into the other project drive, create a new business process and import it into it. So you showed that earlier. Yeah. So yeah, that's the only way to do it. You couldn't have it cross everything across all project drives.
Yeah. Okay, just got a few minutes left. If you've got any questions, post your questions.
Just got a point back about that. You've got the problem normal users can get access to the sites tool on your cloud. I'm not too sure why. Maybe just drop Bitrix a message just to see, because we've just tested on the self-hosting. If you're not an administrator, then you don't get access to it, and I think that is the only way at the moment.
Yeah, I mean on self-hosted you can do a lot. You can do permissions on all these menus individually. You can state which groups or departments or individual users get access to the menus, and you can do a lot more with it. But
yeah, I think you can set permissions. I've seen this in the marketing side before. That's why I went into sites to have a check. You can set access permissions who can access the CRM marketing tool, because you obviously don't want everybody sending marketing campaigns out to lists that you generate. But I think in here, I can't.
Again, it might be because it's in beta. It might be that actually there's going to be a set of permissions just for this, But it looks like on certainly self-hosted it works by, it is possible to hide that if you're not an admin. Okay, don't think we've got any more questions, so we'll wrap it up and we'll see you next time.
Yep, bye for now.